Good afternoon, everybody. It is 12 noon. It is Friday, and that means it's time for Lessons in Leadership. And today it is episode 33, and I'm Mary Gregory, and I'm very, very pleased to welcome today Judith Germain. Hello, Judith.
Hiya.
Hello. So Judith and I have known each other for many, many years, way back when we were both really starting out our businesses. And I remember even in those days, you'd already identified that who you worked with Maverick Leaders. So you're very much the Maverick Leaders coach consultant, focusing on leadership from that perspective. So, and since then, you've done amazing things. I mean, it's way over 15 years that we've known each other. So you've done amazing things. For example, you're now the leadership columnist for HR Zone, and you've also got your own business magazine, which we'll talk about a little later on. But I'm curious, first of all, is how did you get to be that person who works with Maverick Leaders? What helped you or enabled you to identify that as an area of need and speciality for you?
That's a really good question. And I guess it's a bit of the poacher turning gamekeeper, because I was always challenging and challenging others. And I was always quite different and thought quite differently. And I thought everybody was the same. So when I was in an organisation, I ended up being head of HR very early on, and people would say, this person's a problem. I'd go talk to them and I couldn't see the problem because I totally actually understood that individual perfectly well. And then when I left corporations, I worked for myself, I thought, actually, it's not HR that I want to do. It's leadership specifically and around the area of those different people. So I started to work out, what is it about these individuals that I enjoyed and what was different from them? And it was then that I came up with actually their Maverick with my definition. I also, being a Maverick, I also defined what Maverick was before I took it on.
So what is your definition of a Maverick then?
Someone who is willfully independent. And the accent on willful is not like a toddler stamping their feet, gimme. It's someone with a smirk on their face and going, yeah, I'm going to do that.
So there's kind of a humour and a cheekiness to doing things differently.
Definitely.
Yeah. So, because I write about ego and how we can get in our own way because of our ego. Where does ego fit with Maverick then? Are you playing to your own ego when you're being a Maverick, or are you transcending it?
Oh, that depends on the type of Maverick you are. So there's a socialized Maverick and there's an extreme Maverick. And they have the same sort of capabilities and the same sort of competencies, except one is focused on others, greater good, and the other is focused on themselves. So it's a moral dimension. So I'll give you an example. Ego, as you mentioned, matters little to socialized Maverick. They're not interested in their ego. They know they're good. If you don't know or agree, that's down to you. But with an extreme Maverick, one who's highly toxic, it's very important that you feed that ego more than getting the job done. Whereas a socialized Maverick, it's all about working for the greater good, getting the job done, working collaboratively. Their ego, they don't really have an ego when they're working in that space.
Yes. So I really hear it's about going beyond yourself when you're a socialized Maverick. You're a stand for something that's much bigger than you are.
Yourself.
Yeah, phenomenal. I can think of lots of other conversations to talk to you about that, but I want to stick with your journey as a leader, because this is what this is about, and it's about lessons in leadership. So you focused on Maverick. You're 15 to 20 years down the line, you're still working with Mavericks, and you're a leadership specialist, and you're a leading authority on Maverick leadership. So what sort of challenges are you supporting your clients with, Judith?
Oh, that's really good. So two, I guess, mainly, sometimes an organisation has a Maverick in their organisation and they're struggling to harness that talent. So I will work with them to do some Maverick mentoring, either with the Maverick or with the leader who can't manage the Maverick.
Right.
But typically, organisations, especially now, during post-COVID, is that you need an organisation which is change eager. I don't talk about change ready, I mean like change eager. Give me the change, who can say this isn't working, who can do the what's right, who's highly ethical, highly collaborative. But organisations aren't really set up for that.
Yeah.
So organisations I'm working with right now is like, how do we get our people to be change eager, to make a real difference, who have an ethical base that supports our client base?
Yes, yes. And how, so I'm thinking about organizational culture here, which is often so difficult to address because it's that invisible way that we do things around here. And this whole thing about change eager, I also know of lots of corporations and big businesses and small businesses too, who delight in people being yes people, wanting people to just follow them. It sounds like what you're offering is encouraging people and cultures that are the complete opposite to that. Is that the case?
Yes. The reason I'm so sure about it is because if you think about where we are now, we're in a constantly changing world. We are no longer, so the things that we did in the past will not support the future, right?
Yes.
And a lot of the leadership styles are based on a solid, stable environment, or one that changes occasionally.
Yes.
Right? So under Maverick Leadership, everybody's considered a peer. It doesn't matter if you clean the floor or you run the office, you're the same. And because you treat everybody as a peer, you don't have ego, you're welcoming people's contributions. Do you see what I mean? So it's more of a case of, we need as an organisation to have everybody shooting the right way, but be prepared to say, this isn't right, this isn't going to work. And that's what happens with Maverick leaders. They'll sit there before you start the work, they're thinking about execution, they're thinking about the strategy, they're thinking about who's involved before you've actually started. So that's why people are surprised with Maverick leaders, because when they're in a meeting, they're quiet for a long time because they're listening and thinking, and then they'll ask loads and loads of questions, which sometimes people think are quite challenging, but they're just trying to work out the strategy and what's going to happen and how could it work. And then they'll say, yeah, but what about this, or how about that? And we need more of that. We can't have
absolutely
yes people.
Yeah, I really love that. And I love the fact that what you're saying is often the Mavericks are the people in the room that are quiet and listening, because historically they've been people that haven't sometimes been overlooked because they're not making such of a noise. It's the people that make the noise that kind of progress in some organizations. But the fact they're listening, and to me, listening is one of the key skills of being an effective leader, and then being able to ask really good questions as well.
Yeah, it's also the observation. So a good, effective Maverick leader is observing the passion, what people are saying, the dynamics of the movement. They're looking at how things are landing, how things not landing. They're thinking about, what is your stated mission and will this succeed?
Yes.
So there's a lot going on with the Maverick. And also, if something works well, the Maverick leader will say, my team did that, or Mary did that. Even if you spent 90% of the time doing it, you're always putting out the other person. And if it goes wrong and you've had 1% input in what's gone wrong, you say, I'm the leader, it's my responsibility. I got it wrong. And then that's the problem. So socialised Mavericks often get overlooked because it appears they're doing nothing. It appears they're just talking, and all the work, all the good stuff is done by their team, and the bad stuff is done by that individual.
Yes, I absolutely love that. And I'm going to say a bit more about women leaders and the connection to women leaders in a minute. But we have got people watching today. So I just want to welcome those that are watching. And please do put your comments in the comments box, or ask Judith a question while she's here with us, because she's got so many insights, really rich insights around Maverick leadership, and actually leadership in general, which is really great. And do remember to put your name when you put a comment or a question in, so we can see who you are, because we are on StreamYard today. Anyway, you're sort of talking about with Maverick leadership, a socialized Maverick leadership will say, we did it. And I know, because I do a lot of work with women leaders, that research says that that's often what women do. And women get overlooked in organizations because they don't claim their own victories. They share their victories. Whereas men are much better at advocating for themselves and putting themselves forward and saying, I did that, even though it might have been the team that did it. Can you tell us a bit more about that, and whether these are two questions in one, so I hope this isn't going to confuse you. But so tell us a bit more about that, the connection between Maverick and maybe women leaders and getting yourself noticed in the organization. Let's go with that first, and I'll ask you the other question afterwards. So what is there a connection?
There is a connection. Ironically, Maverick leaders who are male can often have the same problem. So they will still do that and then be conceived by their peers that they're not leading because they're not following a traditional masculine way of leadership. And by the way, for the record, there is no such thing as masculine and feminine leadership. It's just leadership.
It's just leadership. Well, I must talk to you about that as well. That's another point to address, because I think there is a difference. But anyway,
in terms of your other question about impact, now that's really important. I think one of the things I've noticed, and if I'm coaching or mentoring, especially a young leader or a female leader, is the way that you contextualize your language. So the more senior you become, you start to talk about this is the issue, this is what we're going to do to resolve it, and you may go, this is how we got there.
Yeah.
Lower down in the hierarchy, you tend to give you, this is what's happened, and you work your way up. So as a senior leader, when you're presented by a manager who talks in a junior way of speaking, you end up seeing them as junior. So sometimes it's just a case of saying, because if you think about it, senior manager, I remember when I was a senior manager, you have about 10 minutes often, you get caught in the middle of, before going to the meeting, and you don't have the time to hear the story. It's like, what's gone wrong, what you're doing, how's it going to work? Fine, let's move on. And so half the time, if young or female managers start with, this is the problem, this is the solution, then they will be seen as more senior and be taken more seriously than if they said, and I came in today and then I found out from John that this was happening, because all that is irrelevant at the point of having to make a decision.
Yes. So it's something about being much more concise, but also having thought things through before you present to anyone else what's going on. And I learned that the hard way,
because I remember working with an MD, and he looked at me and he went, Jude, you just talk too much. I was like, and it was and then when I thought about it and observed my colleagues who were the same senior level as I was like, yeah, this is how they speak. This is not how I'm speaking. And it was just literally a switch, and it made such a big difference.
Yeah. So actually being very much more to the point and focused in what you're actually sharing with people. Incredible. Okay. So your consultancy, obviously you focused on Maverick Leadership. You've become an authority in that area. You're now doing all sorts of other things, such as you're the HR, you're the leadership columnist rather for HR Zone. And also you founded a business magazine specifically for Maverick. So tell us a bit more about your magazine and how that came about.
So the magazine is called the Maverick Paradox magazine. And it's really for the pathologically curious. And that's part of this whole Maverick Leaders things, is that you are so curious about everything. Yeah. And that curiosity leads to innovation, and it leads to connection. So the magazine writes about all sorts of topics to do in the business sphere, but they are written by what I call, my collective noun for socialised mavericks is a swagger. So it's written by a swagger of socialised mavericks. So I've got about 15 on the permanent team, and there's been about 50 guest writers as well.
Yes.
Who join our swagger. It's a fun read. It'll definitely make you think. Every writer is different, so there's different perspectives, and there's a lot to learn from the magazine. It's kind of fun, really.
Yeah, I love your creative use of language. Pathologically curious, swagger of mavericks. It's lovely. So where can people access this magazine?
Okay, it's all online, and it's at themaverickparadox.com.
Lovely. Okay, well, we'll know to check things out there. I'm certainly going to check it out myself. It sounds fantastic. So you also mentioned, and I want to bring it up because it's something I have a view on as well, that you think there is only leadership. There is not masculine or feminine leadership. I have a slightly different view to you, because I believe that there is certainly different types of energy, and there is more masculine energy and more feminine energy, and that we both, men and women, have both. So as a woman, I know I have traits that are masculine and masculine energy in me, but I've also got lots of feminine. And I meet men with the same sort of difference in balance. And I look at it that way. And because I suppose why why I'm laying out my agenda like this is that I think in today's world of this, where it's just constant change, it's so much uncertainty, the feminine energy, that holding energy of being able to deal with the uncertainty is so powerful. Whereas that energy of having to be direct and always on the move, which is the masculine energy, that can be hindering when we're so uncertain in the world. So I just wondered what your thoughts were on that, having said there's only leadership, there's not masculine or feminine.
I'm more comfortable with the idea of different traits.
Right.
But I'm not comfortable with a firm, this is a feminine leadership style and this is a masculine leadership style, because to me it's a nonsense, because Maverick Leadership is all about tolerance. It's all about doing what's right. It's all about who you are, what you do, and getting things done. And as a leader, you are always changing your style slightly dependent on the person that you've got in front of you,
yes,
or the situation. And I think we have to be careful as well in terms of gender sizing leadership when we have individuals that are non-gendered or transgendered,
yes,
or whatever way that you identify yourself. And I guess what it is that Mavericks hate dogma, and they hate that kind of dogmatic thinking that doesn't allow an openness, a curiosity. Because I guess for me it feels like I'm going, leadership is this, and that doesn't feel, and my natural is to do this, so it feels uncomfortable to say you're a man so you have to do it that way, and you're a woman you do it that way. I don't like
that. I mean, I see that we need both. It's an intertwining of both energies, really. But yeah, I love that it's all about leadership, because I think leadership is everywhere. You don't just have to be a CEO. In fact, you can have CEOs, you can have politicians. I think of some of the leaders in our country who are not great leaders. That is not models. Children can be fantastic leaders.
Maverick Leadership it's a philosophy, it's a way of life. So the way I say it is this: it's Maverick Leadership is not the cloak that you put on when you get to work. It's the underpants that you put on when you get up.
I love that. All of this is really appealing to me. It's my inner child, because what I'm getting is there's a real connection with the child in you, and using that in an incredibly creative way of being as a leader as well is what I'm getting through all of this. Fantastic, Judith. I'm really excited by all that you've shared. I hope the people that are watching are too. So I want to move on then to talk a bit about you, because you've been on this journey over the years, and I'm always curious from all of my guests as to what has shaped you as the leader you are today. So my question is around, can you share with us a time that really kind of touched your soul in some way, or got you to sit back and really question who you were or what you were doing or how you were being, and caused you to shift in some respect to the point that it shows up in who you are and how you lead today? And it could be linked to when you found out or realized it was all about Maverick Leadership. I don't know, but just you may have more than one, but it'd be lovely to hear at least one example today of something that shifted you and caused you to be the person you are today.
Well, my earliest example in the field of work was when I was 17 and I was working in an organisation. And looking back now, I was so fortunate because my boss was a socialised maverick, all I didn't know at that time. Anyway, so I'm 17. I'm a commercial underwriter, which is really highly unusual for someone that old. I had a lot of underwriting authority, highly unusual. And I wasn't very tactful at 17, and I would say I would wear my arrogance lightly. I knew I was good at what I was doing, and I was confident with it. Not quite out there swaggering, but And I remember my boss at the time saying, "Jude, I'm never going to promote you," and I was absolutely horrified. And I was like, "What do you mean? I am the best person." I was 17, remember. "I'm the best person that you have here." And he said, "Yeah, I know. But every now and again you upset people. And I'm fed up with it." And I said, "Yeah, but they get upset for a couple of days and then they get over it. I'm popular. I've got plenty of friends. It's not an issue because I smooth it over." And I'd upset them because they'll say something like, "Am I good at my job?" And me being brutally honest and not understanding about being tactful would say, "No, you're rubbish, actually." And he just said, Jude, that's not how it works. You need to find a way to speak to people and lead people that doesn't upset them and have them crying at my desk for 2 days. And because I really respected him, I thought, yeah, that makes sense. So unlike most people, I didn't go off and start studying leadership. I was looking at what's the components, my Maverick stuff very early on of leadership. So I learned about body language, transactional analysis, all the sort of stuff that was the component part of leadership before I even looked at leadership. And it's through that journey I thought that put me, I was so lucky to be 17, to be told it at 17.
Yes.
And I think I'm much more a compassionate person, much more aware of the power of your words and your behaviour.
Yes.
Because at 17, I had someone who cared enough about me to say, this isn't right. Because the thing with Mavericks, they're very good at knowing what's wrong, and they're very good at how to get people to move fast.
Yes.
And I had learned at 17 that if I wanted someone to do something, I can just, put my finger on the bit that's bleeding and then they would move.
Yes.
But that's not appropriate.
Yes.
Unfortunately, what I see is a lot of people still believe it and act in that way into their 20s, 30s, 40s.
Yes. And what I hear is that caused you to go and explore the softer skills of leadership, which are really the hard skills, actually, because they're the ones that fundamentally cause you to be an effective leader or not, as the case may be.
They don't mean any harm.
Yeah.
I think the only thing is the driver for executing well and getting things done was activated more than to do it willingly and well.
Yes.
With others. And it's just been out of balance. And I think that's where a lot of Mavericks are misunderstood. People think they do and say things because they're horrible or mean. It's just because if you said to me, you're rubbish at your job, I wouldn't get upset. I would just say, oh, how so? How do I improve? So you just assume other people are the same way. So it's not as if you're giving people feedback in the way you want feedback, because
but I also get the power in not taking things personally, because someone would say, oh, you said I was rubbish at my job, I could go into a big drama about that. But what I hear is, don't take it personally, just look at how can you get better.
It's just data. So this is so Maverick leaders have really high self-efficacy and high self-esteem. So if you're telling them something, it's just more data to assess. Because you're saying it doesn't make it right or wrong until the Maverick leader has assessed it. So like when Pete was saying to me, this isn't going to work, I went away and thought about it, and that makes sense. You're a great leader. I don't see you doing that. So there's something here there.
And how fantastic that he sat down and had that conversation with you, because so often as leaders, particularly when they're working in very busy organizations, they don't necessarily have those tricky conversations and offer that feedback. And he's absolutely changed your life by having that conversation with you.
Yeah, and he's definitely has been a template to what I think leadership is about.
Great. He sounds like a great template to have.
And to get that at 17, very lucky.
Yeah. So I just want to mention one thing, because I meant to mention it earlier on, actually, and I haven't. And that is because there will be people watching today or after the event in follow-up who might want to learn more about Maverick and what it means to be a Maverick leader. And you have got a book out, The Maverick Paradox, The Secret Power Behind Successful Leaders. Can you just share a little bit more about that and where people can get hold of your book from?
Okay. Well, you can get it from Amazon. The book really looks at the template of a good leader. It looks at the different types of Mavericks and conformists, how you emulate them. Why are Mavericks successful? How do they utilize power? What capabilities are they accessing? The book's written in layman language. It's got lots of fun case studies, which are presented as dialogue. So, so people are watching something unfold and then commentary afterwards. So it's very easy to understand. But I think it really looks at what is it that you need to do to be a good leader. Who are you as an individual? to be a good leader, and what is it that you need to do to be a good leader.
Yes.
It's not, and it's an understanding that the Maverick leaders, it's an aspirational thing. You'll never be complete. You will always learn and develop and get better.
Yeah.
Which Mavericks like the fact that there's no end, because we're curious.
Yes. No, I love that too. It is infinite. You know, there's that whole thing about the infinite game these days, isn't there? Leadership is an infinite art, really, isn't it?
Oh, I like
constantly learning, constantly moving forward, building awareness. Yeah. Fantastic. Judith, I am so grateful to you joining us today. We are right out of time once again. So thank you once again for being here, for sharing your honesty so openly, for bringing humor into it. I really love the humorous edge that you've brought to things, and that whole thing about curiosity. I really love it. So thank you once again.
Thank you very much.
Contact me if you would like to develop leaders that take change in their stride, have improved leadership impact, and are able to think through complex problems and inspire their team to work through solutions.